You got to be resilient. When you have bad days, the good is going to outweigh the bad. And you have to continue to fight no matter what. I mean, you go back to the Tennessee days. I thought by now I would have been a top assistant at a Power 5 or at Tennessee, or a head coach at a low to mid-major school. But it ain't the case. It ain't what God had in plan for me. What you have to do is I have to build from the bottom up. And Tennessee used to have a saying, brick by brick. And that's what you have to do. You got to start at the foundation. You got to get your foundation and then build it up. You got to stay positive and you got to continue to work and don't take no for an answer. Just keep working and keep pushing.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 11 of Rocket Motivation. Today's guest has been coaching basketball at the college level since 2008, starting at St. Catherine's College in Springfield, Kentucky, his hometown. Following a successful 6-year run at St. Catherine's, today's guest was offered and accepted the position of Director of Player Development for the men's basketball team at the University of Tennessee. This job could have been a major stepping stone for this week's guest's future college coaching. Unfortunately, after only 1 year, the Tennessee head coach who hired this week's guest was fired for NCAA violations, ending the job at University of Tennessee. We're going to find out how this week's guest handled this devastating setback and move forward.
3, 2, 1.
Coach JT Burton, welcome to Rocket Motivation.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So, Coach, why don't we do this? Why don't we, take us to the present? Tell us where you are today in your life, your job, your family, what you're doing.
Well, I'm the head men's basketball coach here at Tusculum University. Going into my 3rd year. It's a really nice place. We've had some success here in 2 years. Got it off to a really good start, 3-0 in the conference just early, this crazy season. The first time since 1956. And then I got a wife whom I've been married. I've been with my wife since I was in the 6th grade. So, and we'll be married June 2nd, coming up on 20 years, June 2nd, 2021. We got 2 lovely little girls, oldest one named Alexis Burton, and the other name is Jada Burton. So that's where I'm at, and I'm happy to be here.
All right. Coach, where is Tusculum?
Tusculum's in Greenville, Tennessee. It is East Knoxville. That's the easiest way to describe it when you tell everybody where it is. Close to Bristol Motor Speedway and ETSU, East Tennessee State.
I got you. And what division or what conference do you play in at Tusculum?
We're a Division II school. I think we're the oldest school in the state of Tennessee. Been up since 225 years. We're in the South Atlantic Conference, in a very, very tough conference. We have 2 or 3 teams in the preseason, top 25 every year. So it's a really tough conference.
Let's go back now. So I mentioned your 6-year head coaching job at St. Catherine's in Spring Hill, Kentucky. Now, that's where you grew up, huh?
Yeah, Springfield, Kentucky. Yep, in Springfield, Kentucky. I was born and raised there, one of 10. 4 other brothers and 5 sisters.
Okay. Well, and tell us give us a brief background of growing up in Springfield.
You talking about 5 brothers and 4 other brothers and 5 sisters, all living in one roof, living in a 4-room house, and our lovely mother. It was kind of, we're kind of rough, but, we had a lot of love in our house. We got a very close family, very close-knit family still to this day. And growing up in that house was, it was rough, but it was also loving and rough.
Now, you actually played basketball at St. Catherine's.
Yes. So I went to St. Catherine from 95 to 97. And 97 to 99, I played under Steve Adams at Tennessee Wesleyan University.
Okay. And the reason I brought that up is it just points out the small world we're in. Not only did I grow up in Athens, as a kid, my mom's still there. I've spoken at Tennessee Wesleyan, and our first guest on Rocket Motivation was Kyle Blassingame, who was a student at Tennessee Wesleyan. So I just thought that was interesting. Also, the story of how you got to Tennessee Wesleyan is interesting. Tell us about that.
Well, my really close friend, I call him my best friend, named Eric Hicks. Back then at St. Catherine, we stayed in the dorms, and we lived with the nuns, and we didn't have cell phones back then. So he had sent this tape off to Tennessee Wesleyan, to try to get his name out there. So one day the phone rings out in the hallway, which is one of those pay phones that we had to use. And I happened to be right there, and I answered it. It was Coach Adams looking for Eric Hicks. And so when Coach Adams said, he explained himself, and he told me who was one, I said, well, I yelled for Eric. And then I was like, hey, Coach, You looking for a point guard? He said, yeah, I'm always looking for players. I said, well, look on that same tape, because that's where I had my career high. And I hit, like I think it was like 7 threes. I said, look at number 3 and tell me what you think. He looked at it, and the rest is history.
All right. That's a great story. All right. So after going to Tennessee Wesleyan, you graduated from there. Then you started coaching at the high school level. And then in 2008, got the job at St. Catherine's, right?
Yes, I was at the high school level. And I've been coaching basketball for a long time as an assistant and head coach. But in 2006, 7, I got out of high school. I got my master's degree at the Tusculum University. And then I went on to help Wade O'Connor as an assistant when St. Catherine was a 2-year school from 2006, 2007, 2008. Well, 2008 is when I became the head coach there, because we was transitioning from 2-year to 4-year.
Right. And you coached at St. Catherine's for 6 years, right?
Yeah, I was at St. Catherine for 6 great years. My first year was very, very humbling. I don't know if you looked that up, but I only won 5 games. I mean, you thinking about it, you got a guy like myself, hometown kid, everybody watched grow up. My head is as big as the gym when I first got the job, my first real college job, and we only won 5 games. My assistant, Matt Steersman at the time, he had some NAIA experience, and me and him went in blind. I did, what happened for him, I don't think I won 5 games. We get there, won 5 games, but then the next year, I think we had the biggest turnaround in college basketball, which was 24 wins.
Right. Okay, well, let's get to your job, your stint at Tennessee. So it's 2014. All right, you get a job at University of Tennessee as Director of Player Development in the men's basketball team. What is that job? What's your role as the Director of Player Development?
My role was to make sure that the players was doing what they were supposed to do as far as on and off the court, classroom work, getting to class on time, showing up to meetings on time, making sure just kind of being the liaison between the head coach and the players, and to make sure that they was doing what they were supposed to do.
Explain to the listeners, though, why is this such a huge opportunity for you?
You think about it. I mean, you just went over my history. I was a homegrown Springfield kid, family of 1 of 10. And the only one out of 10 of us to go to school, to go to college and graduate. You in Springfield, you pretty much run the town. I mean, I ain't gonna say run, but you get to do it. Everybody knows you. Everybody's used to you. Your program's winning. And when you go from NAIA to player development at the SEC level, it's unheard of for a guy like myself coming from Springfield, Kentucky.
Right. And so I guess your goal at the time is to move up in college coaching in college basketball.
I've always wanted to be a college basketball coach. Right. I was very fortunate enough to know Coach Tyndall, because he coached me my second year at St. Catherine, and we had a very successful season. Yes, being a college coach, I mean, you think about it now. It's kind of like a high school coach getting called to coach a head college dream job of his college that he didn't even know, and when they gave me that call to go from NAIA to the SEC as a player development, was unbelievable, because you get to be on television every day, every other day.
Right. How does getting the job at UT, how does that help you in achieving your coaching goals?
Just by getting that job, being the player development at the University of Tennessee, you've been at that level, that gains a different kind of respect from your peers, because, not a lot of people get to say that they've been at the SEC level. And going at that level, it changes everything, because it changes the way you look, because it goes back to people seeing you on television. So they automatically think that you're this successful guy, and it just changed my life, my coaching career, both good and bad, forever.
Right. And so, well, let's go back. All right. Tell us, how did you get the job?
Well, the reason why I got the job is because Coach Tyndall and I have been, we was really, really close as he was at Moorhead and he was at Southern Miss. And then when he got to the University of Tennessee, he had that spot open. So one day, as he's driving with one of his assistants, and he calls me and asks me would I take it. So he makes me, go through this whole thing to try to get the job, tell me I want it, tell him I want it. So I remember the day, May the 10th is when he called me, and it was unbelievable. Didn't know if I was going to get it. And then on May the 11th or 12th, he called me back and said, hey, the job is yours if you want it.
talk about, you did kind of go over your relationship with Coach Tyndall, but just for those that don't know, this is Coach Donnie Tyndall. And people down here where I am in Alabama will know him from, of course, he was at Tennessee for the year, but he did very well at Southern Miss is where he was before Tennessee. But so, no, Coach Tyndall, he coached you at St. Catherine's?
Yes, he coached me my second year at St. Catherine.
Okay. So you've got a great relationship with Donnie Tyndall.
Yes. Okay. Yes, at this time, we had a great relationship. And that's why I got the job. Okay. Well,
let's talk about that year you were at Tennessee. What was the experience like? What did you do? What was it all about?
I tell you, I signed my contract May the 14th, of 2014. And from May the 14th to October the 30th was the best time of my life because, you got to be on a stage that a lot of people don't get to get on. You get to get on a stage that with the people that you are with, you're familiar with the whole staff, and especially with Coach Tyndall, the way he brought me on, it was unbelievable. I don't want to leave this out. I was questioning my faith in God, and one of the things that I used to say all the time, I create my own luck. And you got to understand, my family is a very faith-driven family. We're Baptist, and I used to go home all the time. I used to make jokes about it. And my sisters and brothers would get real upset with me. But my mother never would. All she would say is, what he give it, he could take it away. And at that time, I didn't think nothing of it. So during that time, I was almost a different person during that time. And, because I could pretty much, go and come as I please, do whatever I wanted to do. My wife and kids lived in Kentucky. They didn't move up to Knoxville with me. So I was living the American dream, for those couple of months.
Well, I think your mother may have had a vision into the future because it all comes crashing down. Tell us what happened.
Well, like I said, I go back to May the 14th, always October, those 5 months. You on a high that I'm going to say I was on a high that I didn't think I could get knocked off of. October the 30th was when the notice of allegations came, that we was notified that, hey, the notice of allegations coming, the NCAA is coming. But at the time, I didn't know what was going on. So I was like, okay, well, we'll figure it out. And you want to talk about from October the 30th to March the 27th was a unbelievable roller coaster because I'm thinking, well, you know what? I could still get through this. We're going to make it. We're going to stay at the University of Tennessee. I've done this myself, not without God, just me, because I wouldn't have believed it. Can't lie. I would say for myself, it was an unbelievable roller coaster ride because you got to listen to social media. You got to listen to your family and friends. You got to listen to everybody. Everybody's got their own opinion and nobody really knows, not even myself, what's really going on. So it was an emotional roller coaster to say the least.
Okay. And just so we understand, everybody understand what's going on here. So Donnie Tyndall is getting investigated by the NCAA and you get the official letter. And so that's the problem is, okay, now the NCAA is coming. I mean, Tyndall's only been there for a year, right?
We hadn't been in it for a year. I mean, It had to been from May to October. So you talking about 7 months? It hadn't even been a year. It was tough. Okay. 5 months.
All right. And then how did it end?
Well, I remember, I think it was on a Friday. It was March the 27th. And Coach Tyndall, we had to meet with the athletic directors during that day. I think it was like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. in the morning. And they told us they had let him go. And that right there, because Coach Tyndall was like almost a father figure to me. And it was devastating to see how hard he had worked to get to where he is or where he was and to be having it all snatched away. But you got to take it now. I'm still thinking, okay, well, we may have a job. We may still keep this job. Well, that wasn't the case. And I remember when they let Coach Tyndall go there, I told us we had stayed back, a couple of days. And that's when they hired Coach Barnes. And they had said Coach Barnes was coming. They had, made an official hire date. And he walked through, and Coach Burton has done a phenomenal job. I don't even know him, but we played him in an exhibition game my first year here, and he's done an unbelievable job. I'm a huge fan. When he walked through, I still thought, well, maybe I could still play on, stay on as a player development guy. That wasn't the case because, everybody now being, looking back, everybody brings their own people. He didn't know me. I'm thinking I'm the best guy that is for the business. And he walked through, shook her hand, says hi, and kept going on back to the office. And then when they told us to turn in our keys and computers and cell phones, that's when it kind of set in. I was like, oh my goodness, like I don't have a job now. The only person that I knew in this business that could help me is now out of the business. So what am I going to do? I haven't had a job, a real job, as I say, since I was a teenager. So when that day, March the 27th, it was unbelievable for myself, just put it that way, because it was tough. It was a tough pill to swallow because I hit rock bottom then.
Okay. And when you say you hit rock bottom, tell us about that.
Well, come March the 20th, from March the 27th to June the 2nd, was it 2015 then, I was out of college basketball. I hadn't done anything else. I was home in Springfield, Kentucky with my family. And you got to take it now. At this time, during this time, I didn't believe I had lost all faith because I thought I created my own luck. Well, that wasn't the case. And God shook me to the core because I had to go back home and I had to get a job with one of my former players. Chad Newby gave me a job. Okay. And I started working at a place called Recovery Care. And from was it March 27th to June the 2nd, I had an actual job. I had to drive to Louisville, an hour, Louisville, Kentucky, every day. And I worked with people with traumatic brain injuries. I had to do that every single day. And I had never done it the day of my life. And I remember after about 2 weeks into that job, I was depressed. I went home and I sat in that bathroom and I cried because I begged for God. At that time, I needed him. They say you don't pray to him until you need him. And boy, did I need him because I thought I was done. I even contemplating taking my own life. I've never shared this before. And my wife, Carla Burton, but Carla Burton really helped me get off my feet. And I was sitting in the bathroom and I contemplated. But then, I prayed from up until June the 2nd. I walked into Chad's office that day and I said, it was on a Friday. And I said, Chad, man, I'm not doing you I'm not doing you. I'm doing you an injustice. And I'm doing this job in injustice along with myself because I'm not helping you like the way I should. So I told him I was done.
Well, and you try to get back in coaching, right? That's the next
During
move.
that time, yes. From March the 27th of June the 2nd, I was at St. Catherine for 6 years. I played there. I graduated from there. I coached there on 2 or 3 different occasions. St. Catherine's been my whole life. It helped me get started. Well, they had a job come open as the head coach. And at this time, they had a different president. And the athletic director, who was named Tom Bystrick, was my high school teacher, history teacher. So we had a great relationship. I go interview for the job, and I'm thinking I'm going to get the job. I'm like, yes, I got a chance. And Coach Bystrick's like, oh, I knew he was on my side. He never really said it. But boy, when they gave me a call and told me that they weren't going to hire me, that right there really took me for a tailspin, because you think about it, I had given everything to that school, everything, and they didn't hire me. And that was one of the lowest moments in my life, lowest points in my life.
How'd you get over that?
Well, I still have, you want me to be bluntly honest, I haven't gotten over it, but it was very humbling because it made me go to a side of the good Lord that I didn't think I could reach, because he had answered my prayers. I prayed. I told him, forgive me. I didn't, now I'm not saying I've changed and going to church every Sunday and all that stuff. No, but I do believe in God, and I pray 50 times a day, and I thank him every day. And during that time, Motlow State, one of my close friends had called me, Motlow State in Tennessee. And in Tullahoma. He said, Coach, do you know the athletic director there? I'm going to apply for the job. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll help you out. He said, will you call Tori Raby and ask her, she was athletic director at the time, to see if you can get my foot in the door. So I was like, yeah, call Tori. Tori was like, yeah, Coach, the job's open. She was like, are you coaching? I was like, no. She's like, why don't you apply for the job? And I was like, well, I thought about it. And I was like, okay. So I just sent my stuff in. Tori said, well, I'm going on vacation. We're going to start interviewing process next week, And so when Tori did that, she called me when they got back. I'm going to say May the 30th is when I interviewed for that job. And when she got back off of vacation, I interviewed. I thought I'd done terrible because you know how you do these phone interviews for these jobs, and then they call you in. And I thought I had done terrible. So when I got back home, I was even worse. I was done because I didn't think I was going to get back. I was crying. My kids was watching me. My wife was sitting there trying to support me. And come June the 2nd, it was on a Friday. And I had just told Chad that I wasn't coming back. And I was at an all-time low because I had just told myself, I'm going to coach basketball. I guess it's going to be junior high or something. I get a call when my oldest daughter, Alexis, and I are sitting at the table. And Troy called me from Motlow State in Tullahoma and told me that they had hired me as a head coach. Alexis still talks about it to this day. I mean, we both was crying. She had no idea. She didn't know what she was crying for. She knew her daddy was happy. So that day, I knew my prayers had been answered, and I knew that there is a God. I had to change the way I
And you spent 2 years at Motlow State. You know, looking at it, I mean, I've seen your bio. You went 75-13 at 2 years in Motlow State. That's a pretty good record.
Yeah, I had some really good success. I had some really good assistants during that time. But when I got to Motlow, we had some greater success. I mean, we won 25 games my first year. We made it to the conference finals and got beat. And then my second year, we won the most games in history. We won 30 games. And then we end up winning the regional champions and make it to the Elite Eight in the national tournament.
You leave Motlow, you get the job at Tusculum. That's how it worked?
No. Oh. When I leave Motlow, I go to Morehead State.
Oh, that's
for
right.
a year.
As an assistant.
As an assistant. So, again, I'm thinking, well, I take this job. You got to take it. When the stove is hot, you got to take it. You got to do it when the iron is hot. And I just won 55 games in 2 years at Motlow State. I was hot. And so when my former assistant, Bo Braden, asked me to join him in Preston because he was going to get the job, Preston Stratton, who's the head coach there now, asked me to join him. So I was like, of course. I mean, I thought, that's my ticket of getting back to the big time. And I went there for 1 year, and now I learned a whole lot from Preston Stratton. He's doing a great job this year at Morehead State. Okay,
so from Morehead State as an assistant, you go to Tusculum. All right, how did you get the job at Tusculum?
Well, at the end of the season at Morehead, I was sitting outside on the out in the gym area, and I was just sitting there thinking, like, I'm a better head coach than I am assistant because I felt like I still to this day felt like I let kind of Preston down that first year because I could have done a lot more. But, that's here nor there. And I was sitting out in the gym, and then I get a call from Coach Tyndall. And Coach said, would you be interested in the job at Tusculum University? And we had played Tusculum when I was a head coach at St. Catharines, so I was kind of familiar with it. The athletic director now, Doug Jones, and the former president, who's at Tarleton State now, Dr. Hurley, James Hurley, had, called Coach Tyndall, told him about the job, and Coach Tyndall called me and asked me, did I want it? I was like, yes. That's another prayer answered because I was believing and I prayed on everything. I didn't think I created my own luck. I got the job I got an interview, and then I talked to the president at the time, Dr. Hurley, and then I talked to the now current AD, athletic director, Doug Jones, and then they bought me an interview, and the rest is history. Well,
and you've done pretty well at Tusculum, and let me just set it up that, I know before you got there, Tusculum had several losing seasons. I mean, how many years in a row did they have a losing season?
I think it was 8 years in a row before I got here.
Okay.
7 or 8 years in a row.
Yeah. And your first year, how did you do?
Our first year, we got here, we flipped the program. We won 16 games, and we won 12 games in the conference. We finished fourth. We won this first time in the winning season in 8 to 10 years. And then we won the most conference game ever here, which was 12.
And then the next year you improved upon that?
Yeah. Then last year, going into our second year, we won 19 games, made it to we hosted the first round tournament game. We won that. We won 13 games in the conference, most another record. And we got beat in at the tournament against the best team in the country, is Lincoln Memorial.
And then this year you were off to a pretty good start until COVID kind of shut you down, huh?
Yeah, I mean, this year's team is very, very special. I got a very special group. I got, my assistant coaches, Justin Chartrand, Deontay Ferguson, my strength coach, Justin Irwin. These guys, with the group of guys that we have, we started off 3-0 in the conference for the first time since 1956, 57. So we're trending up. We got hit with COVID, and we didn't have anybody that got COVID. It was from playing contact tracing, so we had to shut it down. And but this team we got here this year, I love them, and it's been a great year so far.
So, Coach, as you know, Rocket Motivation is all about dealing with and overcoming adversity. So the first question, what have you learned about yourself and dealing with the adversity that you've had to overcome? Number one, you got to put God first. And that's one thing I've learned about myself, and I always will, and I always believe. Number two, for myself, I learned that, I'm very resilient. I mean, you go look at ever since I've been coming up, I wasn't the best basketball player. So I had to outwork a lot of people. I had some good people in my corner, as well. So I've learned that I can, any adversity, I'm going to get through it. Now, you're going to take a couple steps back, and it don't feel good, and I don't like it. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to keep grinding and keep fighting. Like I told you before, I don't know if you've seen on the internet of the little cub trying to go up the hill in the snow, that mountain, with his I guess his mom is at the top, and he gets up there and keeps sliding down and keeps sliding down. Go Google it. It's on YouTube. And then eventually that little cub gets to the top of that mountain with his mother, and that's me. Now, Coach, what advice would you give others who are having some tough times, going through adversity? I mean, you've been through it, and everybody's adversity is different. I mean, the truth of the matter, you that job at Tennessee, I mean, that was going to be your launching pad. I mean, that was going to be your rocket ship to, possibly Division I coaching. And then, through no fault of your own, Donnie Tyndall gets caught up in the NCAA violations and sanctions, and you're out. You're out of basketball, then you work to get back, and now you're at Tusculum and you're you're having a great career there. So what advice do you give to other people that are having some problems in their life? I'll go back to it. You got to believe in God. You got to trust and believe. And then you got to be resilient. You got to continue to work hard. When you have bad days, the good is going to outweigh the bad. And you have to continue to fight no matter what. I mean, you go back to the Tennessee days. I thought that I was going to be by now, I would have been a top assistant at a Power 5 or at Tennessee, or a head coach at a low to mid-major school. But it ain't the case. It ain't what God had in plan for me, in store for me. So what you have to do is I have to build from the bottom up. And Tennessee used to have a saying, brick by brick. And that's what you have to do. You got to start at the foundation. You got to get your foundation and then build it up. You got to stay positive, and you got to continue to work, and don't take no for an answer. Just keep working and keep pushing. And, I mean, this may be a tough question to answer because you're sitting there with your job at Tusculum and you're doing great. And I know that is your focus, and that's what that's what you've got all your energy in. But what's your goal? What's your final goal as a coach? I've always wanted to be a big-time Division I head coach, but I'm not the one that looks for other jobs when I have a job, if that makes sense. I love my team. I love Tusculum University. Don't plan on leaving no time soon. But everybody has hopes and dreams, and I'm a dreamer. If you know me, I dream big. I have a vision board sitting right in front of me. And so with that being said, I'm a dreamer. I like to be a Power 5. I'd love to be the head coach at University of Tennessee one day, if that's what's in store for me. So, like I said, I'm not saying I love TU. TU is giving me an opportunity of a lifetime, but I'm a dreamer. I want to be, I want to push myself. I want to be one of the greats and go down in history in basketball coaching. And so if it's D2 at at Tusculum University, that's what I do. But my main goal, my biggest goal, is to be a Power 5 head coach. Well, Coach, tell me about that vision board right in front of you. Vision board, I've had it for a long time. Like some of the things, when we tell you some of the things I have on it. Yeah, I want a yacht. I want a yacht and live in Miami. I want to own 500 acres for my family to live on. I want an Audi A8. I want a house on the beach with that yacht. I want to coach the USA basketball team. One of the newest BMWs. I want another beach house. I mean, I can go on and on. I want to get my assistants head coaching jobs. I want to own a private jet.
I mean, I want to win the conference tournament. I want to own 200 shares in Apple, NEO, and Tesla. I mean, so I can go on and on and on. So, it's so much stuff I have up there looking at it now. Now that you said, I don't know. I also have a quote on my board that says, accept what is, let go of what was, and have faith in what will be. That's what I look at every day.
Well, Coach, that's a great quote to end this interview on. I want to thank you so much for coming on this show today. It's just been, I think your story is just incredible. It's awesome. Hey, Coach, if any of our listeners want to follow you or Tusculum Pioneers basketball team, how can they do that?
You could go on all publications, IG, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter is Coach JT Burton. And then you could go into LinkedIn, and my name is JT Burton as well on there.
Yeah, and Coach, if somebody wants to follow your team, Tusculum Pioneers basketball team, how can they do that?
Instagram, it is Tusculum Men's Basketball. So Tusculum MBB on IG and on Facebook.
And so for those of you out there, I mean, we all got basketball teams we cheer for and support, but listen, you can always use one more. So, follow Coach Burton and follow Tusculum, because I tell you, he's got something really special going on up there. And if you're listening to the show, it'd be a good thing, where you can be a part of it.
Rod, I really, really appreciate you, having me on at first. I thought about this all week, and I was like, you realize it's the first podcast I've ever been on. My assistant has one, and I was like, Rod's got you beat because he put me on there first. You didn't. So I really, really appreciate you having me on. I listen to your stories, and this is a really, really, really good podcast. I didn't know it was out there. Now you trust me. When I heard some of your stories, some of the stories are yours. Hey, man, I put mine to the side, and I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, it's been our pleasure. So, Coach, thanks so much, and good luck with the rest of the season.
All right, thank you.
Coach JT Burton's story is so inspiring. He had just gotten a job that could have made his dreams of coaching Division I college basketball a reality. Through no fault of his own, the job gets taken away and he's back to square one. But he keeps on pursuing his dream. Episode 11 of Rocket Motivation is in the books. Next week, you'll hear the story of Scott Christmas. He'll talk about the multiple devastating adversities, both physical and emotional, he's overcome, and the fighter mentality it takes to do so. See you next week. Thanks for listening to the show. If you're interested in getting my book, Get Back Up, just go to Amazon and put in Get Back Up and my name, Rod Caden. It'll pop right up. I would love it if you would subscribe to the podcast and rate and review the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. I would really appreciate it if you'd share it with a friend. I would like as many people to hear my message as possible. Never give up and always get back up. And we'll see you next week.